I think it's a lovely link to think about scaling up as we move to ask Helen Keys from Northern Ireland to County Tyrone to give us some presentation about farming. Helen.
Get myself unmuted. Thank you very much, John, and thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm really pleased to be here with such a group of interested people who have obviously fallen down the same rabbit hole that I have fallen down in the last 4 years. When I'm talking to you today, it's from a farmer perspective. We are farmers who got into textiles rather than textile folk who got into farming. So we're maybe coming from, maybe we know a lot less than you guys, which might be why we very naively went down this road without really understanding the full implications of what we were getting into. So just to give you a bit of background, we have a 50-acre farm in County Tyrone. So we're right in the middle of Northern Ireland. It's a lovely part of the world. We inherited the farm about 12 or 13 years ago from my husband's father. And to be honest, we weren't expecting to. It was a little bit of a surprise to us. And we, over the last, for a long time, we didn't know what we were doing, didn't know what to do with it. When we inherited the farm, it had a suckler herd of cows, and that was where the money came from. So we grew grass on the farm to feed to the cows, and that was pretty much all we knew how to grow. And that's quite a similar story in many other places. Prior to that, when Charlie's dad had the farm, it had been dairy. Not very intensive dairy, but dairy. And prior to that, the generation before his father would have had a mixed farm. So they would have had some pigs and 1 or 2 cows, and they would have grown crops. And one of the crops that they did grow on the farm was flax, amongst many others. It was very much a mixed farm. And that again would be sort of fairly typical. What got us down the line of trying it again on the farm was my husband's also a sculptor. He makes these bronze sculptures, and we were looking for some Irish linen to package the sculptures, and in sort of trying to find Irish linen that had been grown here, discovered that actually it's been quite a long time since anybody grew flax anywhere in Ireland for it to be processed into linen. And in a little fit of madness, Charlie said, well, sure, we're looking for something to do with the farm. We knew that, keeping the farm as a suckler herd was not, it wasn't really a bright future. And to be honest, we were finding we were really struggling with a farm that we couldn't really see a future for. So that was a real challenge. So when we saw something that, here's something we could try, we decided to give it a go. And we went then on a mission, and we spoke to people like, the McConvilles, Felix and Eugene, and we spoke to Herman and Marion up in Dungiven, and we did the rounds of everybody who we could find who knew anything about flax and flax growing, including, Charlie's older uncles and so on who knew a bit about it, and got all the advice we could, ploughed a field, sowed it with a fiddle, and that was the start of it. I've got a little time lapse here. Sorry, it's a bit shaky, but it will show you the first year's crop growing. And as you know, it grows in sort of something like 100 days. Now, the first year we did it, it was rubbish. I don't mind telling you. We grew the wrong variety. We planted at the wrong seed rate. It was absolutely full of redshank, which anybody who's grown flax will probably know a bit about, redshank being one of the real enemies of flax. It is in our part of the woods anyway. It took us a full month to harvest it because we really didn't know how to do that. And even though we had a load of helpers, we kind of didn't get properly organized. So it was all a bit of a disaster that first year. This is this year's crop, which is just a different story. It's this is year 4, and every year we learn more and we talk to people. We actually have learned loads from reading old books. you know, books from the sort of, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s, because actually it was at its peak agriculturally then, so we can still learn loads from how they did it then. So we have a beautiful weed-free crop this year, which we harvested. This is 3 acres compared to our first year, which was 1 acre, but we harvested it quicker this year, just because we've got a bit better. We've learned all the wee tricks and techniques now that we didn't have before. So nice crop. One of the things that I find really interesting is that, you know, we look at how they did it, going back, and you know, our Charlie's uncle will tell us how they did it, but actually there's lots of wee things we can do now that they couldn't do then. Like, you know, we've barbed wire fences all over the farm, which are perfect for hanging flax on. So that's a really good way to get it dried. Although we discovered you don't hang it all on one side of the fence like we did here, because then your fence falls down, and you have to hang it either side to get it nicely balanced. We have tried retting in the field, and it didn't have great success with that. It's really labor intensive. You know, I admire people looking at it, because you're going out and turning it, and you're so dependent on the weather, and we haven't great climate for it where we are. So what we're doing now is retting it in a great big old repurposed stainless steel tank that we got from it was originally in a cheese factory, then it went to a fish hatchery, and now it's enjoying its third life as a flax tank, retting tank. We use rainwater off the lane. You can see there's a pipe going in there. So we're collecting rainwater, filling up the tank with the rainwater, and that's working beautifully. And we just spread it out in the field below there to dry. That was a really important part for us to get right, because the retting in rivers and streams was one of the real problems with the industry in Ireland. And you can trace the decline in rivers is directly related to the increase in the linen industry in Ireland, because they would ret it in a flax dam. Every farm in Ireland had a flax dam on it. They'd put the flax in, they'd ret it in the dam, and then they'd let the water from the retting away into the river. And that would cause a really, you know, it's really damaging for the rivers. So it's really important that we get this bit right. But again, the nice thing on farms nowadays is most of us have a slurry tanker. Most of us have the equipment where, you know, we'll have some kind of tank, and we can go in and draw it out with a slurry tanker and use it as fertilizer on the field. So we can spread it on fields, and then it's not getting near the river, and we can actually make use of all that nutrient that's been absorbed in the retting water.
That's 2 minutes, Helen. Thank you.
That's okay. I'm just finishing. That's grand, John. So I just want to say, from a farmer's perspective, how important it is for us to be looking at crops like flax. Particularly in Northern Ireland, we have an agricultural system which is primarily grass-based. 80% of our farming is, you know, meat, dairy and poultry, so our main crop is grass. And so we have this big sort of monoculture, and that's just really, you know, it's not good for in all kinds of ways, and it's particularly not good for biodiversity. And we really urgently need to be diversifying our farming into other crops. And to me, fibre is a really, really clever way to go and a good way to go. And, you know, we have a 7-year crop rotation. So we're moving away from being only grass and bringing in cereals along with the flax. And that's, you know, great. We're already seeing the results of that on the farm. We're seeing lots more insects, pollinators. We're seeing flocks of linnets turning up, which we never had seen before, or maybe we just didn't notice them, but flocks and flocks of linnets arriving because of the flax. And I think just, I mean, I know we have a whole supply chain to fill in, and we're working hard on doing that so we can have commercial scale. So, you know, and I think by next year we should have that up and running so that we can machine process the flax into linen. But just from a sustainability point of view, all of the other things that we can do with that fibre, and we're working with Jane, who has just been brilliant at, you know, inspiring us to look at all the other ways, you know, regardless of the textile, all the other potential areas that we have. So, you know, we can turn our oil into polish, and we can be looking at furniture, and, you know, people are already making car parts out of flax. So we have a world of other things that we can look at. So I think from an agricultural point of view, flax is definitely a future crop.
Helen, thank you. I'm going to stop you there. I think we could all free flow on this. It's such an exciting thing. Really wonderful to hear about the biodiversity and sustainability that you're committing to as a farm person. I'm going to ask Arwen Roberts from Wales to come in. I should say that I met Helen on the farm about 2 months ago, and I know that there's a fantastic flax community throughout the UK, and that Arwen has been in touch with you. Arwen, would you like to come in with a reflection at all?
Yeah, sure. Hi, thank you. Hi, Helen. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for sharing. Great presentation, and it was just really nice to see some pictures. So yeah, I kind of called in on Helen's advice with my growing this year. So it was amazing to be able to talk to Helen on the phone and now being able to see in pictures what you've been doing. So that's great. So yeah, you were really helpful to me this year, and I needed to broadcast my flaxseed at really short notice because of lots of kind of external factors. So that was, and after seeing you broadcasting on Facebook a photograph, which is kind of why I touched base. So I just wondered what might be your biggest concerns going forward, but also what excites you? So I know you've just touched on, you know, where flax can go, but for you personally at your farm, yeah, what are the biggest concerns, or what excites you?
Well, the biggest challenge obviously is getting the rest of the processing chain up and running. The retting is, we can do that in the tanks, and I mean, we could put a lot of flax through that scale of tank. The scutching, we're restoring an old Mackie scutching turbine, so we're just working on getting power to that, and that will scutch a lot of fibre. A lot quicker than we can do it by hand, which is what we're doing at the minute. But so that bit, the next stage will be that we're lucky to still have weavers and beetlers, but the spinning is a gap. But again, we are working on that and hoping to get that filled in the next few months, hopefully. So fingers crossed. So that's the biggest challenge. The biggest hope, I think, is just, all of the stuff that we've been working with Jane on, all of the other things that you can do with every bit of the flax plant, and, looking at, can we, be making wall panels and room dividers and furniture, and, there's such a huge interest in that as well. It's not like there isn't a market for it. We have a list of people who are, interested in not just buying textile, but, working with us on developing all of those other things as well. And don't get me started on nettles.
Oh, well, I want to another time. It's fascinating what you're achieving with that, with nettles on your boundary of the farm. Listen, thank you very much. Wonderful. Thanks, Arwen, Gower Flax in Wales, and Helen, thank you so much for that presentation. Really interesting to see that little bit of scaling up and the complexities of farming. There's so much I'd want to respond. We do have some questions coming through. We'll pitch those. We're not having a breakout. We're extending into our fixed 50 minutes Q&A a little bit.